In today's session, we are going to study the chapter The Cholas. Let us first of all see what topics we have to study in this chapter according to the reduced syllabus. So we have to study inscriptions, Brihadeshwar temple and the Chola administration. The historians have divided history into three periods: ancient, medieval, and modern. The medieval period in India is said to have begun in about 8th century AD. In this period, there were three powerful kingdoms in South India, and they were the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. The Cholas were the most powerful among them. The age of the Cholas is also called as the golden age of Tamil culture. Now let us see the sources. In this you have first of all inscriptions. So the inscriptions are the chief archaeological source for the history of the Chola period. They are in the form of copper plate grands, stone inscriptions, and inscriptions found on temple walls and pillars. The copper plate grands are known as Anbil or Karandi. It contains records of grants of villages, plots of lands given by kings to a person or institutions like temples. It is inscribed on copper plates and are written in Tamil and Sanskrit. Another inscription is the Kanya Kumari stone inscription, which gives a list of rulers and the origin of the Chola dynasty. The inscriptions are important because they provide us information about the Chola administration, the land revenue, and taxation system. The copper plate inscriptions are the records of land and money given as gifts by the rulers to the temples and Brahmins. The inscriptions also tells about the construction of temples or the setting up of a new image of the deity, that is the god. Inscriptions on temple walls inform about the records of sales and transfer of property rights in a village land. The Chola rulers built a number of temples. The technique of building temples is known as Dravidian style or Southern style, which was different from the North Indian temples. The main feature of the Dravidian style was the construction of a pyramid-like structure or tower called Vimana over the room of the deity, and this room was called as Garbhagriha. In front of the main shrine, that is Garbhagriha, was the audience hall or mandapa where people gathered for prayers. The temple also had gateways called Gopuram. In this picture, you can see the two different styles in which the temples were made. The North Indian style, which was also called as Nagra style, and the South Indian style, which was also called as Dravidian style. The picture shows a temple made in Nagra style, and the temple tower is called as Shikhar. This picture shows a temple made in Dravidian style, and here the tower is called as Vimana. The Vimana consists of many stories, each of which was smaller than the one below. The whole Vimana was artistically carved with beautiful sculptures. The Brihadeshwar temple at Tanjore or Tanjore is the best example of Chola architecture. It was built in the 10th century and it is the specimen of Dravidian style of architecture. The temple tower, known as Vimana, is about 190 feet high. It is crowned by a massive dome consisting of a single block of stone. The shrine has a huge Shiva Lingam which is about 9 meters high and it is carved out of a single block of stone. The temple has many structures like Nandi pavilion, a pillared portico and a large assembly hall. The walls of the temple are decorated with beautiful sculptures of gods and goddesses. The temple has been declared as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. This is a picture of Brihadeshwar Temple. It is also known as Raja Rajeshwar Temple. It is located at Tanjavur and it is built by the Chola king Rajaraja I. This temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva. Children, now let us study about the Chola administration. The Chola administration system was well organized. There were three main administrative divisions: central government, provincial government, and local government. Central government. The king was the head of the administration. He had council of ministers to advise him. The king often went on tours in order to keep a check on the administration. The central government looked after matters like internal peace and order, external defense, and cultural progress of the empire. Provincial government. The Chola Empire was divided into several provinces known as mandalams. Each province was placed under the charge of a governor. The governors were generally the princes of royal family. The provinces were further divided into kotams or valanadus, that is divisions. They were further divided into nadus, that is districts, kurram, that is group of villages, and gramam, that is village. Local self-government. The village was the lowest unit of administration. Villages enjoyed a lot of freedom in administrative matters. Each village had three types of village assemblies: the Ur, the Sabha, and the Nagaram. The Ur was the general assembly of the village. The Sabha was the most powerful assembly. It was a body of Brahmins. The Nagaram was the assembly of the merchants and traders. The village assemblies looked after the education, temples, maintenance of roads and ponds. They were also in charge of the payment of taxes which was due from the villagers and also settled disputes. The temples in the Chola kingdom became the centers of social activity. It was not only a place of worship but were also social, economic, cultural and educational centers. Meetings to discuss common issues were also held in temples. Temples were centers of dance and music. The temples took care of its workers by providing them food, housing facilities, clothing, etc. Temples also provided hospitals for the needy. The temples were rich. They owned a lot of land from which they collected the revenue. The land donated to the temples were known as Devdan. The temples were centers of education and the children were taught by the priests in the temple courtyard. The lessons were taught in two languages, Sanskrit and Tamil. Now let us see the topic, the revenue. Land revenue was the chief source of income of the Cholas. The other important sources of income was the tax on trade. A part of the revenue was kept for the king and the rest was used for public works like building of roads and tanks, paying salaries of officials, and on building towns and temples.